Hello, I am Tara, and this is.
I'm Mike.
And
Wait,
we
you don't know
are.
who I am?
Well, there are days. I try to block it out. No, just kidding. We are from livingonadime.com, and today we are answering readers' questions. So if you have a question that you would like us to answer, please go ahead and post it right now. Let's see. Okay. We just making sure we're live here because we were having a few issues, so I'm getting the comments. So the first question we're gonna work on here is from Alicia, and I'll kind of take this one, and then we're gonna also answer about being upside down in a car and what to do when one spouse spends more than the other. So from Alicia. Good morning. I am preparing to become a stay-at-home mom at the end of December, and I have this overwhelming feeling that I have to get my whole house organized and figure out a schedule that works just right. Please help. Do you have a good starting point? I just discovered your blog and blogs and love them. So I'm not quite sure why you feel you need to have everything organized before you come stay at home. The thing is, coming to stay home, that is in itself going to help you take the pressure off, so then you can focus on getting organized after you're home. I wouldn't do it before. If you're working and you have kids, that's a lot of stress to give yourself a schedule and get your house organized and everything before you stop working. That's just not realistic at all. So what I would do is wait till you stop working, and then when you are home permanently, then every day just sit down and do a little bit. So like for me, I'm chronically ill, so I can't do a lot anyway, but I'll pick one cabinet or one drawer and just get that done for the day. Or I'll go through the kids' closet and just get that done for the day. Now, I know that there are a lot of stay-at-home moms who have this exact schedule and they do everything. Monday is shopping day, Tuesday is whatever. I don't do that, but I'm very disorganized. I can't stick to a schedule to save me. So, no comments from the peanut gallery over here.
Schedules stress her out.
Schedules really stress me out. So, and I would like to be that way, but I don't. And so I don't have a set schedule like that. But one thing you can do is you can just get started. And so like on Monday, you can clean your bedroom, and Tuesday you can clean your kitchen, and Wednesday you could do your laundry, that kind of thing if you want. You have to just kind of work a little bit to see what's going to work for you. And Mom and I did a video on getting organized. Go check it out on our YouTube channel. We will put a link in there after we're done with the show. But it's really just, you got to tailor it to you. If you have little kids, it's going to be a lot harder than if your kids are in school. So it just kind of depends on your situation. And you didn't mention if you have little kids or not. But don't feel like you have to have everything organized and a schedule all put in place before you come stay at home. Wait till you're done working, and then when you're home, every day just pick one thing and work on that and just get yourself started. So that's my answer for that.
And also, things will be maybe different than you expect when you're actually a stay-at-home mom than when you're working and you're thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And life is going to be a little crazy, and you'll have to set aside a little time and then figure out what you're dealing with and then adjust that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Nicole just asked, how come your kids can't have a phone till they're 16? I'm 13 and have the newest iPhone, and my parents pay for it. Well, you're spoiled. Sorry, but we want our kids to learn the value of money and to be able to pay their own bills. So at our house, the rule is when you're 16, you pay for your own cell phone. If our kids drive between 20 and 40 miles to school, they were, and if we needed them to have a cell phone for emergency type things, we would get the very cheapest phone they have. No texting, no nothing, just so they could dial out, dial home, dial 911, that kind of thing, if we were going to pay for something like that. But kids don't need until they're driving.
And if you're 13, it might be hard to understand this at this point, but partly our job is to teach them to be able to live on their own by the time they're 18. Doesn't mean we're going to kick them out when they're 18, but we should be preparing them for that. And unfortunately, when parents give kids everything, and when they give them fancy things, they have an expectation that makes it almost impossible to move out when they get to be the age of time to move out.
And Big Bear Homestead said, Nicole, what lessons are you learning by having a phone that your parents pay for? Exactly. It is our job to raise adults, not be friends with our kids. We are here to raise adults. We aren't raising kids, we're raising adults. And we have to teach them how to do these things while they're at home.
Well, and one other thing is, even as adults, a part of the way that we can live without completely going in debt and being stressed out all the time is we don't have the best of everything. Mm-hmm. So I drive a car that's, it
that we
runs,
pray over every day.
It runs and it's reasonably comfortable, but it's not anything fancy that's going to impress anybody. But we don't have any debt related to it. We don't have to worry about that part of our money. Yeah. Because the car works great to get us where we're going. It has a radio, it has heat and air, and nothing fancy.
Yeah. And Nicole says, I do a lot in my house. I watch my brother every day while my mom is at work, and I have a bundle of chores to do. That's great. And you should be helping out, especially if your mom is a single mom, or even if she's not, if she's working. It's the kids' jobs to help out. Until about the 1950s, kids had 2 to 3 hours of chores a day on farms. I mean, they had a lot of chores, and nowadays kids really don't have that many chores. Even if you did all the laundry and all the cleaning and everything, it really doesn't take more than 30 minutes to an hour usually to get everything done. So, and what we do is we do give our kids an allowance until they're 16, and then they can decide if they want to spend that money on whatever, then we usually let them buy what they want. But at 16, the allowances stop because they should be getting a job and working. So
the other thing is about the iPhone is if we gave all of our kids an iPhone and we paid for it, that would cost more than our house. Mm-hmm. And so in terms of the value of things, it's good to know, because eventually, in a couple of years, your brand new iPhone isn't going to be that exciting to you, but it did cost a whole lot of money.
Yeah. So, let's see, and someone just passed, I missed the name, but someone said, I have my child's cell phone for Terry said, I have a cell phone for my child for safety. That's fine, but it needs to be the absolute cheapest phone that they can get, in our opinion. And you need to stop being afraid of everything. If they're walking in a really bad neighborhood or something, that's fine. We understand that, but
it's not really a safety issue though when they're at school.
Yeah, 90% of the time, safety is just an excuse, and it's not really a safety issue. So
pretty much, if you know where they are and somebody responsible is overseeing them, shouldn't be too much of a safety concern. That's why when we say when they're 16, we did have one that was 16 and decided she didn't want to have a phone because she didn't want to have to pay for it. So at that point, we were reevaluating our situation and thought maybe we'll get her a really inexpensive flip phone that's not fancy at all. So at least she can call us if there's a crisis while she's driving.
Yeah, and our kids drove on a major highway to and from school, and it was, like we said, 40 miles. So that was a legitimate safety issue.
Nicole does say she doesn't get allowance. So
yeah, well,
maybe that could be sort of part of the allowance.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if your mom's paying for it and she agrees that you're doing extra to pay for the phone, then that's fine. I mean, that's perfectly fine. So
maybe you're not spoiled.
Yeah. Well, then maybe you're not spoiled. So, sorry. Let's see. So, let me go to the next print question that we have is from Dale. How do I get out of a very upside valued cars? I think upside down is what they're meaning. I'm not sure. One has 150,000 miles with 2 accidents, not our fault, and the other low miles but high balance. I wish I did not get them now that I have 3 college students we pay high tuition. With 6 kids, I was already on a tight budget. So,
unfortunately, you're kind of in a situation you can't really get out of without some pain.
yeah, unfortunately, this is a how's the saying? You made your bed, now you have to lie in it type thing. Everyone makes money mistakes. So you're probably just going to have to chalk this one up to making a mistake, drive those cars until they drop dead and are falling apart on the road. I mean, if they've only got 150,000 miles on them, for the oldest one, you should still at least get another 100,000 miles.
I think it does depend. If you owe $40,000 on it and you could sell it and you'd be out $5,000, it might be worth eating
That's
the $5,000 and selling it and not having to eat the other $35,000 that you owe. But if it's a reasonable amount for what it is and you can make it last a long time, then it might be better to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically to minimize that expense as much as you can. And so if you owe a small amount, but it's just something you really wish you hadn't done, then drive it. But if it's a huge amount and you have to eat some loss, but you'll save a whole bunch more if you get rid of it, that would be better.
Yeah, and Big Bear Homestead said you can refinance your car. Yeah, that would be worth looking into.
And I hesitate to say this because it could get people in trouble if they don't do it right. But if you have a car that's got a loan on it and you're able to get like a credit card at 0% interest or very, very low interest, it might be useful to put that loan on there. The problem is that if something happens to the car, you still owe that money. Mm-hmm. Or if you put it on that and then you decide, hey, I'm going to charge something else now, then you've kind of lost any benefit you would have had from that. So you have to be pretty disciplined to use that method.
Yeah, and like for us, we lost huge amounts of money. Well, at the time it was huge for it. And Mike ended up getting a job 100 miles away and was commuting 100 miles each way, back and forth every day. And then he had to get an apartment because it was just too much. And we had 2 little kids. We had a 1 and a 2-year-old. And we finally had to move because he got laid off from that job. We got another job in Kansas. So we were paying rent on an apartment for $500 a month and a house payment for $400 a month.
For a house that we didn't live in.
For a house that we didn't live in that was vacant. And he was making, how much were you making?
At that point, it was $9 an hour.
$9 an hour.
And we had 2 kids and everything, too.
Yeah. And I think it was like 55 or 60% of our income went to house payment at the time. And we finally had to take a loss, and we had to take a loan on our credit cards and pay $8,000 for someone
to take the house.
To buy our house from us just so we could get rid of it. I really wanted to throw up. I really wanted to throw up.
But we had a friend who was a financial advisor that showed us, he kind of drew it all out, and he said, look, you can lose this now, or the town was not the kind of place like where the market's going to come back and be crazy.
It was in Timbuktu.
Fast. So he said, you can lose this now, or you can hold on to it for a couple of years, making more payments where you're going to lose this much. And he actually calculated how much we would lose if we made payments for 2 more years or 3 more years. And he said, or you can cut your loss right now, and that's the absolute most you're going to lose. And so that's what we did. And it was painful, but it was a lesson in not buying houses in bad markets.
Well, and then in our last house, the same thing happened. We purchased the house for $135,000. We put $15,000 into the house because the week we moved in, our septic tank failed. And we had to put in, there was no septic system in there. There was literally a hole in the ground for the septic system that the inspection did not show. And so we had to we ended up putting $15,000 into our house. And then, let's see, we bought that in 2007. Then 2010, the market had fallen in Colorado, and we thought, well, maybe we should move back here. And Mike was like, okay, let's try to move back to Colorado because it was cooler and the heat and humidity was making me really sick in Kansas. Well, then a week later after we decided that, our brother-in-law was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and so we thought that they would need help. So we thought, okay, we need to go ahead and come back so that we can help them. And we ended up losing $20,000 on that house also.
Well,
so we had our house paid off, almost, not quite all paid off. We had like what, 30,000 or something left on it. I don't remember. It was a huge chunk. And we ended up losing 20,000 because we had 150 invested into this house, but we only got 135 for it.
So we sold it for the same price we paid.
Yeah.
But what we lost was real estate commissions
The
and
septic
moving
tank.
costs and half the cost of the septic tank. We were able to get the sellers to pay for half of it, although we should have pursued them for the whole thing.
We should have sued them.
So the
we
house
didn't.
value, on that house, the value didn't go down. We just
No,
ended
it
up...
did, because that was when the market went down.
Yeah, but we bought it for 135 and we sold it for 135.
Well, but in the meantime, in a year, it did go up, so that was worth it. But yeah.
But also we realized that we were moving to Colorado where the market was way lower than it would have been, and so for us it was worth it to make that choice because we ended up getting a house for $205,000 that would have cost us $300,000 a year later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that ended up being a positive, even though that wasn't the best turnaround on a house. But again, it was in Kansas, outside of town a little bit, so it was not a market that was booming.
Yeah. So, hello, Jenny in New Jersey, who's my sister-in-law. She's spying on us. So, sometimes the whole point of that is sometimes you have to just buck up and suck it up and pay it and just be done with it and learn your lesson and move on. Unfortunately, we've had the same situation, and sometimes you just have to do that. Now, on the second part of his question, he said, I have 3 college students and we pay high tuition. With 6 kids, I'm already on a tight budget. Our advice would be, why are you paying your kids' tuition? Our rule is if the kids want to go to school, then they're going to pay for it. Mike's mom and dad did pay for his college.
It was $3,200 for all 4 years.
Yeah, so it was nothing. It was pennies. And so it was absolutely nothing for him to go to college. Now, if your kids are paying, $50,000 to $200,000 to go to school, they need to be paying that themselves. You shouldn't be paying for your kids to go to college. And honestly, we encourage our kids to go to college without going into debt also. And I know that people say, oh, you just can't do that, but you can. There are lots of ways you can work around. There are not above and beyond scholarships. You can do things like start at community college. Our kids went to a special high school that gave them college credit with their high school diplomas.
It actually paid for up to 2 years. Well, actually it would have paid more. It paid for generally 2 years of...
Yeah, Big Bear Homestead says, same here, we have our kids pay their own way to college. The thing is when kids have to pay their own college, then it's their money that they're messing with. And then they really think long and hard about how are they going to spend it. Is